All right, what's happening, good people? Thank you again. Couple brothers pulling up and chopping the last chapter of Sister Outsider. With this week's chapter is Grenada Revisited. And once again, we got Brother Nick, that elder over there, down there in Charleston, Walter, and Dr. Slow himself.
Sometimes I rhyme slow, sometimes I rhyme quick.
Reverend Quick. So we thank you all for tuning in once again every Thursday. If you don't mind, like, share, follow as you tune in and as we move forward. Thank you again.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. So we do a quick review of last week because that conversation was one of the better conversations we've had throughout this book about anger and suffering, and especially with some of the things we've witnessed in the last couple of days. And as we move into Grenada Revisited, how do you think that section from last week? Anybody has any kind of input from last week's conversation, and as we move into this week's, especially with the events that have passed with the sisters that were killed in Atlanta in the Asian community, about this anger and the suffering and how white supremacy has tried to suppress the doings of this murderer.
Well, for me, I see how white supremacy feels attacked and how it launches out in terms of the anger. I mean, it arbitrarily enforces his anger or forces his anger on anywhere that it feels threatened. The power itself. You see, when the power is threatened, it's almost like my grandfather said, when you kill a snake, you can chop it in the middle, but you need to chop the head off, because if not, it's going to still come because it feels like it's threatened, and now it's really dangerous when it's willing to use all of its venom to try to kill whatever it feels is threatening to it. So that's kind of how I see it on the other side of it, and versus the anger to even discuss it. Like, this is going to be a mental labor for us today to even discuss this, like, because it re-traumatizes us and what we have to live with every day. And I think that's one of the things that people miss whenever we're called in the conversation about race or sexism for women, that this is hard, and you have to decide whether or not do you want to engage in this mental labor to share how you feel.
Right. And that's the anger aspect. But how do we deal with that? And you did discuss some of the suffering. I think we're also, as dealing with that suffering component now, as I've read I read something from an Asian sister who pastors a church in California somewhere, and she says, "How am I supposed to preach this week? What am I supposed to preach?" That was her words. What am I supposed to preach this week? And we all have had to deal with that type of trauma in one way, shape, or form, whether it be preaching after George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Ahmaud Arbery, or Trayvon Martin, or what's the other young Emmanuel 9? Oh my God, preaching after those moments is preaching in the suffering is something different than preaching or teaching or sharing or leading even after that type of suffering. And as we talked last week, the impact of those type of movements what that meant as Miss Lorde was kind of sharing with us, and as we move into what she's dealing with, the suffering of not just one person, of a whole country.
So I feel like we, again, what she makes suffering, anger turned wrong. Like we've let the anger fester, and then it becomes suffering. If I'm remembering, kind of threw me a curveball going back to last week when I had my mouth all fixed for some talking about Grenada. Now you're going to talk about last week and anger and suffering. But again, the difference to me, what I'm hearing for is the anger that we feel right now is justified and righteous. Like, so for the dude to even say, yeah, I killed, how many, 6 Asians, I think, and injured 2 others, Asian women, but it wasn't about race. It's about my sexual addiction. My anger says to him, shut up. don't say silly stuff like that. You're trying to turn this into something that it's not. The anger that we feel because of your racist act is right. It's righteous, and we have a right to feel what we're feeling. We don't have to be. I think you can disagree with me, Dr. Quick, but I think the re-traumatizing happens when we have to then deal with, or even try to begin to deal with, the ludicrous statements that are made afterwards to justify it and to take away some of the white supremacy that is so visible. It's plainly out there. Anything he says doesn't make any sense except for, I just don't like Asian women, and I wanted to kill some. So that's what I did. If he would just say that and be done with it, then the anger doesn't become suffering. It becomes suffering when it becomes an ongoing thing. And I've got to continue to try to prove to you something that is plainly clear to see to everyone.
Well, let me go ahead. Go ahead, Nick.
That's the common play out of the white supremacist playbook. It's almost like playing defense. We know what play is coming. When it happens, we're like, okay, they finna try to soften it. They're gonna try to find every good thing they can find. They're gonna try to divert it. They're gonna try to do whatever they can to try not to allow the serpent to rear its ugly head. But if the shoe is on the other side, it's like, okay, we got to find everything. This is just one of them thugs. This is one of those unfathered children. They dig up everything that they could find. But on the other side, it's like they tried to cover everything and just make it like, well, he was just struggling mentally.
Yeah, like the difference with the refugees versus the people who were looting during Katrina, stuff like that, statements like that. When you hear that it's like, here we go again. And like you said, Walter, I agree. Like the trauma, I give you an example. I saw where the family George Floyd, they settled their lawsuit. I think it was some millions of dollars, multi-million-dollar suit. So you would say, well, that's justice. In my mind, I was like, here it comes. They give the money, but the officer gets acquitted. I mean, we've seen that before. Like, okay, we'll give you money, but the justice, no. So yeah.
So the anger, then, for me, the way, based on what we read last week, what you do, what you preach is the truth. You say, I'm angry.
Right.
This isn't right.
Right.
It needs to stop. And if it doesn't stop, then we're going to do something different. We're not going to keep marching. We're not going to keep whatever. We're going to do something. If you're going to keep killing us, then we're not going to just keep saying, we accept your apology. That's not it. I mean, we get angry and we act on that anger.
Yeah, and that is that not, and this is why, and this is what I believe whoever put these essays together did such a great job, because is that not what Miss Lorde talks about when she starts talking about Grenada? And we're still talking about Sister Outside. This is the last chapter. is that not the exact example of what is happening in Grenada as, you know, the U.S. forces come in and destroy this country over false assumptions? And you know, that one, it was this one line in there where Miss Lorde points out when she says, and she was talking to, I don't remember if it was a gardener or a nurse or something, and they was like, yeah, the Cubans were shooting at her. And she's like, no, those weren't Cubans. Those were regular people shooting from their porches at the Marines because they felt that they were righteous in defending their homeland. You know, when is it not right to defend yourself and defend what's yours?
Well, here is, man, it's a lot in what you said because number one, without land, it's hard to have a culture, right? So that's why you fight for that. But you know, in America, they're not. We have never received that land. So as a culture, it's like, so how do we defend? You know, how do we even defend something that we don't feel is ours? So all we can defend is our own spaces. Like, and this is what she does with this book. She's defending and carving out her space, her individual personal space in a country that pretty much deems her invisible. And so what America did in 1983 was they tried to cancel culture. But the narrative is that Kaepernick is the one that's trying to cancel culture because he's disrespecting the flag, when in essence, no, you're trying to cancel the culture that was in the Constitution because it's how you view it. And that's where you get the supremacy part. What I say is supreme over whatever I write, whatever's written, whatever is said, whatever is fair. It's all about what I say because of the power.
Let me press a pause right here for a second and make sure that we don't confuse canceling culture with cancel culture. Because you know, I can't stand cancel culture personally. That's one of my pet peeves because, you know, what's going to end up happening is the black folk will pay for that ultimately in the end, and we will be the prime recipients of the canceled culture. That's my take and my thoughts. You all can. Those are the thoughts of Brian Folks and Brian Folks only. The other three did not endorse that, but I endorse that fully. So what Martin did not say cancel culture as much as he was saying they're trying to cancel culture.
Yeah,
and I hope that point is coming across because I think there are some vast distinctions there in what you were saying in your point. Now, if you disagree, please say so.
No, I'm disagreeing with that. No.
Right. Okay. No. Now, Walter, you said you had some mouth-watering distinctions and thoughts that you wanted to share with us. Please continue on with those mouth-watering thoughts.
Did I say that?
Yes, you did.
I said I had my mouth fixed to talk about Grenada. I just thought it was interesting. I mean, you know, reading this, and I think I can't remember what the number was. I think it was like 4% unemployment. 14. No, it wasn't 14. It was 14.
14. It's still either one is still relatively high because it went down tremendously.
No, I'm talking about when the revolution took place, the party takes over, that the U.S. government was what did it not get down to 4% at that point?
Unemployment dips from 40% to 14%.
Oh, 14%.
14%. Okay. Still, that's still tremendous.
That's still huge.
Yeah.
I looked at what Grenada's unemployment rate is. The last figure is 24% today.
Yeah.
Or the last report.
Yeah, wow.
So think about and that was and that's supposed to be after all of this rescuing that the United States has done, in 1981.
Say that
Or 83,
again.
whatever.
Lord.
You see what I'm? So my whole it is the lie that continues to be told, and it's like, and it's blatant. This is what drives that's what it makes it into suffering, because my anger gets complicated, like the complicated grief. The anger gets complicated because I'm thinking, and I'm not alone. I'm sure other Black folks think the same thing. If they would just tell the truth, if folks would just tell the truth and act based on what they say, then none of this, the unemployment rate would be less than 10%, I believe, in Grenada at this time, because of the things that were happening, the changes that were being made. Haiti, people would be running, trying to leave Haiti because they would treat them fairly and trade with them fairly, so that Haiti has no reason being a poor country. If you know anything about the resources that are there, the location of its location in the Atlantic Ocean, all that kind of stuff, there is no reason for Haiti to be poor, except for European and the Western world has cut them out of economics altogether as a punishment for demanding their independence.
Right. That's right.
And I know that's not Grenada, but it's the same idea.
Right.
It's the same thing that's happening over and over again. So don't talk to me about democracy and capitalism and free markets and all that stuff, because that's not what you really mean, and that's not what you're really saying. That's what turns our anger into suffering. And I'm gonna hush before I get in trouble.
But and also, to your point, Rem, which is so true. Do you recall when she says that Grenada's second largest import or export is cocoa, but folks in Grenada can't even afford to drink it? Oh my God!
Right.
Now, how criminal is that?
Right.
And this goes to your point, Nick,
Very.
when you said that when you read this, the thing that it reminded you of was Fred Hampton, because Fred Hampton, one of his major takeaways and thoughts and issues was how the proletariats were always treated in the process or the production of things. Say more about that when you were reading it, because we said that offline.
Well, it's always the system. When you get a hold of what really is available, the system wants to find a way to put you back, quote unquote, what they feel is in your place where you belong. You're getting too ahead of yourself. You're getting too high and mighty in your mind, like Fred Hampton and the Black Panther Party. They began to create this mindset and culture to put people of color in the place where we had a seat at the table, we had our respectful piece of pie, and we weren't bothering nobody. We was just doing what we needed to do to survive in this culture of westernization. And no, that's got to go. We got to get to the bottom of it. We got to stop it, because if this train gets rolling, it ain't no stopping it. So we got to stop it before it gets started. And I mean, they went straight for the head. And then they tried to, as we talk about, create this narrative out of thin air of something that didn't exist to make what happened on that tragic day rationalized, made it make sense to the mainstream media. And so it plays itself beyond Fred Hampton. I mean, you talk about Martin said something, and the first thing I thought about was, when can we protect what's ours? And the first thing came to my mind when he said that was Breonna Taylor. This man was protecting what was his.
Yeah.
But you make this narrative like he was this thug just with a gun all willy-nilly and was shooting at cops. But when you don't make yourself known, if you come kicking in my door in the middle of the night and I'm asleep, I'm thinking to protect what's mine.
Mm-hmm.
So, then you make this narrative. The same with Ahmaud Arbery. It's this man wandering in our neighborhood. We want to protect what's out. It's always
exactly. That's what I was exactly, Nick. That's what I was saying. Like, we're trying to preserve a culture without a land. Like, we don't. What is really ours? Like, you know what? Like, you know, we say, well, we serve in the military. We're defending our nation. I mean, do we really feel that way? I mean, is it really ours? And that was Muhammad Ali's whole issue as well. Like, this ain't, you know, by the way, shout out, happy birthday to the champ who's with the ancestors. He'd have been 79, I think, today.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Yeah. But when she wrote this piece on my page 84, it just drove it home when she talks about when the U.S. showed up in Grenada. We got there just in time. Thinking about saving whatever they trying to save. It was our turf. We had every right.
Right.
Armed thugs. Like these things we hear today. These same mantras that are continually prescribed, and like Walter said, it's just time out. Just tell the freaking truth. That's all. Just tell the truth, and we can fix it from there. But when you continue to perpetrate these lies and these false narratives and these misnomers, it's like, but you wonder why we're angry. You wonder why we fight back. You wonder why we do the things we do. But you continue to perpetrate these lies and try to make what's yours always yours in your supremacy, so to say.
Yeah, which is and it's funny though. This same president that ordered this this invasion was the same president that also had another false narrative: the war on drugs. When at the time drug use was the lowest that it had ever been in the United States, and all of a sudden this is war on drugs. Flash forward 2021, we have what? Mass incarceration. The same president. The same president. Yeah. Yeah, that's where it started. I mean, it was intentional. And who some deem as the best, one of the best presidents ever.
Oh. Yeah, the trickle down.
Mr. Trickle Down himself.
The trickle down theory was a farce.
Yeah. And you know, Grenada was, like she was saying, was a socialist country. And so here comes America, say we want a democracy, but you want your version of democracy, which is the have and the have-nots, and you okay with that? You got your rich, you got your rich, then you got this other layer, but you have to have a permanent underclass that supports, that's how you create wealth for individuals. Like the individual made what, like $42 billion during COVID. Like, how could one person make that much during COVID when they're sending out stimuluses to everybody else, but one person made 40 something billion dollars.
I take it a step further. It's more about the destabilization. It's not even about democracy, socialism, any of that. Mm-hmm. It's just about destabilizing governments so that it doesn't matter who has wealth, because even if they were propping up, that's why you see that, even if they prop up a certain group of people or a certain person to be the Democratic leader, even those folks eventually, if they have enough power within the country, begin to say, well, why do I need the United States? The whole point, what the invasion of Grenada was about was destabilization. The bishop government was doing things that were getting the people behind them. They were actually showing the Grenadians that, at the colonization, we can be a country, we can be a nation, we can do these things. And one of those things that I just saw what I had highlighted was about the youth, a youth organization cutting down the diseases that were coming from mosquitoes. Now when you get the youth doing stuff like young people active in the government and seeing results, man, you said, I mean, that bishop government that was in place, they had the support of the people. And so it wasn't even about socialism and democracy. The United States said, we can't control that. We can't do nothing with it. He's got young people involved. We got to get rid of this today, not tomorrow, today.
And Walter, you have blinked out. Did you hear my comment about the president that started the war on drugs right at the same time that led to mass incarceration? Man. What if this was the blueprint that they feared that this might happen in America? And so we're going to put this country in the headlock and make it tap out. We're going to put you in the headlock. We're going to make you tap out until you submit to what we want. Like you said, destabilization of it, because there's no way, we don't want this to happen in America. Now, I don't know if that was before, but it was 83. So yeah, that was when the war on drugs.
Yeah, it's all but it didn't start in 80s. It didn't start. I mean, that has been the ongoing playbook of the United States since its inception as a colony.
Political billion.
That's not new. That's not new. That's when we talk about house Negro versus the field Negro. It's the same destabilization. Yeah. Because if we ever realize we on the same team and we got the same objectives and same motives, and we can work, we can do what the master is saying we can't do. As soon as we realize that we a problem. That goes back to what Nick was saying. That's why Fred Hampton had to go. Right. Yeah. Not only because he's bringing black folks together, he's trying to bring poor white people.
Right.
That's right. Puerto Rico. That's right.
And it's the same thing over in Grenada. That bishop government was overcoming the colorism, was overcoming generational gaps. When you have young people learning how to read, and then they teaching a 72-year-old how to read, and the 72-year-old is now looking at this young person differently because now instead of a threat, this is someone that's helping me learn how to read. Man, come on.
You know what? I read something. Somebody said something about the collective struggle. Yeah, Dr. Davis. Yeah. The collective struggle. Look at the results of what was happening. We can't let that. Y'all can't. No. We can't let that happen.
Now, understand, if I'm not mistaken, this is all around the time that Angela Davis was ending her PhD in California, UCLA. I think she went to Santa Clara, I believe. She was somewhere in California, but it's still around that same time that she is a PhD student or teaching, beginning her teaching as well, because, the Panthers are in full bloom. She gets arrested, and as a communist for standing up. So you see, all these things are interconnected, and she's a comrade, and she understands these the writings of Audre Lorde, and you have to also understand. My man pointed this out to me yesterday, and he said, when you read Audre Lorde, you hear Tupac quoting Audre Lorde as well. He says, quotes him Tupac quotes Audre Lorde verbatim. You got to keep your head up. In that song, it's one line that he quotes verbatim from Audre Lorde. And where did he get it from? His mama. His mama was a big time feminist. So all these things are working together because you see the power of Audre Lorde, and you say, why isn't she taught in school as a great philosopher, as a theorist? Come on.
Can't do that.
You can't put this type of information in the hands of black folk, poor white folk. No, because now it's a game changer. Because now people begin to ask questions, and what you don't want is people asking questions because you don't have an answer.
Right.
And not only that, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead, Walter.
No, I was gonna say, not only they start asking, they even worse than asking questions, they just begin to do it.
That's right.
They begin to do what the government doesn't want done, and then people begin to say, well, why wasn't this happening before?
Yeah, because like South Carolina and all these southern states who vote against their own personal interest. And I mean, it's like if this book was in the hands of people, not necessarily just black people, but people who have a collective struggle that has been reshaped because of why that's what supremacy has done, and saying, well, you don't have anything in common with them because your color is different. And so with that line, right, that distinct line makes them choose a side when I know plenty of people that I went to high school with that had a collective struggle with me, but because of the color, skin color, and some of the struggles economically were the same. But it was always, you got to choose sides. You can't, no. Your color that's why your color. And so I would have loved to have had an opportunity to read this book as a youth and give it to a lot of people.
It becomes a us versus them.
Yeah.
Instead of color versus color, it becomes a us versus them.
Yeah. And she says that.
A us versus them is problematic. And they understand that, and they know that, and that's why they continue to try to keep this cycle going, because you never wanted to become us versus them.
Yeah. Well, let me get a few of these comments and thoughts. This is from our resident viewer here. She tunes in.
Look at that picture down there, man. Look at that picture.
Oh, look at that picture. Don't
look at that picture, boy. Walter got. Wow.
That joker got a neck. That's from Tony Strother.
Yeah.
Miss Tony Strother. But then she said, this is from an earlier comment, the Christian community needs to stop sheltering racists. Oh, Lord. And the people said, Ashe and amen.
Amen.
I ain't saying nothing. Amen. No comment.
Amen. She said it for herself. She don't need it. Amen.
Amen.
Hey, brother Garnett said, brothers.
What's up, Jay?
And Sister Strother said again, R.I.P. Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, Philando Castile, George Floyd, Walter Scott. Too many lives. Yeah. Let me read it. Let me read y'all two small short sentences right here. Tell me what y'all think when y'all read this. I was learning. Well, ... ellipsis. I was learning had been savaged. That's a bad sentence. Let me read the whole sentence. The second time I came to Grenada, I came in mourning in fear that this land, which I was learning, had been savaged, invaded. Its people maneuvered into saying thank you to their invaders. And on the back end of that, revolution, period. I want you to see how she says this. Revolution, period. A nation decides for itself what it needs. That right there is a very important sentence, because at the moment she's very clear that you can't rescue me if I never ask for help.
Right.
What was that book we read, y'all? When Helping Hurts. Remember that, Walter?
Yeah.
I think we were in that class when Dr. Bell gave us that book. Y'all remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
Like you got to assess what people have first if you're trying to help anybody. You can't just go in and assess what they need. Like, that
again, you got to step back. They wasn't trying to help.
No, they're going in and wrecking shop.
This was never about help.
No.
I mean, even, I would make that a step up. If you're trying to help and you think you know, and then you go and you do some harm, that's something different. But if you go in under the falsehood that you're trying to help, but knowing all along all you want to do is continue to make money off of these folks, then that's more diabolical. That I don't even think that when helping hurts is
That's for me. Help me out, Walter. You're the historian. Wasn't that the idea of the Tuskegee Institute?
To do what? No, it wasn't. It was. Man, see, y'all trying to get me in trouble today. I'm gonna make this statement. I don't care. It's not. This statement is a little overblown, but it is in line with the Nazis doing the experiments they did on on Jewish folks. The Nazis did all kind of experiments on Jewish folks to see what would happen. The Tuskegee, at least from what I understand, I have to read up a little bit more. Initially, it started off with the intention to be helpful, but then the racism does naturally set in to the point that things are done to African Americans that would not have been done to any other. Obviously, some of this, they were deliberately given diseases to see how they would respond. And it was, I guess, the helping part was to then say, well, now we know how to treat this, that, or the other. Syphilis being one, I think, one of the ones that gets talked about the most.
But is that help? That's
me.
What I'm saying. Yeah. Okay. I just want to make sure I wasn't hearing wrong, because that ain't helpful for me.
But it's not diabolical as the Nazis. Just not. Well, I guess again, y'all trying to get me in trouble. The end result is that it does end up hurting folks racism is at the heart of it. White supremacy is at the heart of it. But I guess, it is helpful that you didn't go through it. I mean, and now we know these things about these diseases that we otherwise would not have. They wouldn't have known with the technology they had at the time.
Well, I think this goes back to what was said earlier. If you would have just told us at the beginning what the real deal was, and then allowed us to make a decision whether we wanted to be a part of the experiment.
And nobody knows.
I need to tell you how to think, though.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. But let me go back to my first point that I made, because I think, to the people in power, they're experiencing anger because of the threat of losing it. I mean, they're losing it. There's anger which results in action. Because you have power, this is where abuse comes from your home, domestic abuse, when somebody's threatening your power. But no, I am, you think that, hey, my power is over you. And when you threaten that, and it doesn't have to be like, you don't have to forceful. It's just a threat. Even if you question it, or if you react wrong to what I say, all of that is a part of it. And so, it's deeper than just processing it from the standpoint where you can just see this is wrong. You can see how can you have the same people with the same crime and one person gets probation, the other person gets 20 years. Only thing is different is their color.
Yeah.
But when you're in that, I don't think they see it like that. I think they have programmed to the point where they're gonna justify it. Well, it had to be something different because of the demonization, to quote Dr. Singleton, when you've already demonized black skin from the get-go, it automatically is wrong. Like black can't be right. So it's got to be wrong. But anything other than that is wrong.
I want to piggyback off that and everything, because I think what I'm seeing is how these books have connected more so than I realized. But Garnett says this, Jay Dwayne says this, the war isn't on race, it's on identity. Word. Go ahead, Walter, if you got something.
Yeah. I won't disagree, but but that's why, Ta-Nehisi Coates says it, that we think racism is not the offspring of race. It is the parent.
Right.
Race is the identity that makes the experimentation possible.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if we invent this thing called race, and we say that these darker skinned folks are less than, maybe not even human, and then we can put that identity in. Now we can do whatever we want based on that identity, and it's fine because nobody's challenging, that race, that idea, none of that. So,
right.
Yeah, I agree. But to put a little finer point on it, it is a created identity. And then this is the part that I was smiling when Martin was talking, because what that anger that they have, that folks who want to be oppressive and buying the white supremacy has, makes them then say that they are the ones that are suffering.
Suffering, that's right.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And then makes it possible then for, if you paid attention, one party in our two-party system says we shouldn't play identity politics, but yet that one party is the one that identifies certain groups of people as certain things, thugs and mobs, and other than that, and another group of people as patriots. Now, if that's not identity politics, then somebody please explain to me. And I keep saying this is the last time I'm gonna open my mouth. I know I'm in trouble with somebody somewhere. I ain't saying no more today.
You lie, but
lie,
because here is let me put these on, because I'm gonna make a point. It was experimental from the start, and he was talking about what we was talking about, the Tuskegee experiment. And lastly, it was science, not humanity. Now, go back to let me put this next point up. No, race is used to blot out identity. Race is reprogramming of assumed image. That's on your point, Walter.
I don't quite understand.
And that was to your point of your agreeing, but as you said, a finer point.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the kind of a reassertion, rebuttal to your finer point.
Mm-hmm.
But do you all remember reading Du Bois, Souls of Black Folk? That was Du Bois' whole premise about science, identity, race. Why is there a need for Black folk to have land, have education, have any type of wealth whatsoever? That was his point. And Du Bois was, his whole issue was, or his main thought was, to debunk the science. Mm-hmm. The whole time. Because understand, Du Bois wrote Souls of Black Folk because he saw Haiti overthrow France. Yeah. He saw Haiti overthrow France, and he said, so I know Black folk can win when they fight. But then he saw Haiti then go back into poverty. And he says, so it's no good to overthrow and then end up back poorer than you started.
Right.
And so he's trying to debunk the science, because the science says you can't lead, you can't have wealth, and you can't have land, because when you did have it, you ended up poor. And so he writes Souls of Black Folks to debunk all that the whole time. So you look at Spiritual Strivings, Dear Atlantia. He's writing all these particular essays, or they put all these essays together because the Bois is trying to make a point of saying, do not believe the BS that they sold us. And this is the exact same thing that Ms. Lorde is doing to say, I'm debunking the BS that the United States has done. But the only thing is, Ms. Lorde came back and lived in the United States, and the boys gave the United States the peace sign and said, we can't live here. We can't make it.
We can't win.
We can't win.
We can't win.
Well, and I think I find that powerful, and really give hearts to Stevie Wonder.
Talk about it. Take us to the inner visions, brother.
To say that I feel that I am not rightly respected and revered in a way that I should be.
Oh, yeah. So I'm different.
Not even in just one particular culture. His thing was I was open for everybody. My music and my stance for everything was open for everybody. And I can't be respected on either side of the aisle, or however you want to break the quadrants up, then I'm out. Like,
so let me stop you for a second, Nick, because I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
How can music be racist?
It can't.
Because and it may sound like I'm being jovial, but I'm asking that.
Well, Brian, you need to be more specific. Are you talking about the musical arrangements, or are you talking about lyrics?
I'm talking. No. I'm not talking. Either way, I'm talking about how does a musician, a person who is a musician, and I'm not talking about their lyricism. I'm talking about a real musician, a real artist. How are they capable? An artist now. How is an artist capable of being racist?
Because at the foundation, you got black notes on a white page. And no matter who pick up that page, it's legible from a musician standpoint. So you can't read race, you can't read any of those isms into a blank white page with black notes. You can't take anything from it. All it is music. Now, the interpretation of the music is different.
There we go. Now you stepping into the bad part.
The interpretation
go ahead.
Of the music is different, but still, you can't cast any judgment out of that. I mean, it happens. Like so. Case in point, I had a piece of music that I read in high school. And my director in high school interpreted it a certain way. Then I got to college and we got that piece of music. And my collegiate director interpreted.
Stop for a second. Where did you go to high school?
Darlington.
Predominantly black, predominantly white.
Predominantly black.
What was your band director? What? Black or white?
Black.
But so you messing up my thought, but I'm gonna make it work one way or another.
When you say it, I mean, but it doesn't matter. You still got, even if you got two black directors, they still interpreted it two totally different ways. So it's not like, okay, it's black and black, it was interpreted this way, and then if you go and get a white perspective, it's interpreted this way. People interpreting it on two opposite sides of the spectrum. So that right there makes the point that you can't.
That's right.
You can't. Like, it's all based on individual interpretation. All four of us can listen to the same thing and get four whole different thoughts. Just by listening to music now, no lyrics, nothing putting any partiality in the music. Just listening to the music, we all listen to the same thing and come back with four different thoughts.
But watch this, Nick. I'm going to show you something, because I had this conversation with this person down here in the white shirt who will remain nameless. Now, how does that work with history?
What are you talking about? Oh, yeah, it does work. It most definitely does work the same way. You can take the same set of facts and numbers and then put your interpretive spin on it. And again, that's what people don't this is what we had. I believe this is what you're talking about. The conversation we had. I remember saying to you that people don't understand what it means to do history. Mm-hmm. To do history is not just to go find some facts and figures and put it in a book. When you write the book, you are putting your interpretation in it. Any history book, I don't care if it's high school, college, or if it's something you should read on a specific subject, that author is in that book. Their interpretation is in that book as you read it.
History too.
A history book, yes. That's what I'm saying.
But key that I think that needs to be very, very well highlighted. You said facts.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of history books that are supposed to be history facts that are history interpretations instead of history facts.
But what they've done is take. So what I would say to you, you going back to your So here's the thing.
I agree what you're saying, but the fact.
I want. Right. But again, to put an even finer point on it, to put even finer point on it, though, the crux of it, the heart of it, to me, is something pure like music, pure like history, pure history is a story. It's a story. In music, in some ways, you're telling a story. When you talk about the pure thing, the music, the history, literature, whatever it is, when you talk about the pure thing, something made up like race has no place. You're going to get distortion. Because we're living under this, we're trying to make something that doesn't exist fit into something that is pure.
But let me stop you right there. So how does that work with music when music has no beginning and end? It can go from a creative standpoint as far to the left and as far to the right and still be factual.
But I think the way we look at, when we talk about music, the way we look at things is based solely on our expertise. You listening to Coltrane and me listening to Coltrane, we're going to listen to two separate things. Though we listening to the same thing, that's just like me reading history or me reading facts and Walter reading facts. We're going to see two totally different things because his expertise has taught him to pick up on certain things that I wouldn't ordinarily pick up on.
And bias.
Right.
And bias.
That's it. There we go.
Right.
So the bias. So in all of this, the bias is I don't want to say the most important issue, but is the hurdle. Because when we read Miss Lorde, that is what she points out. That is what everybody that we've read points out. And that's what I couldn't think of the word, but I was trying to figure out what is it in all this stuff that we're picking out is the bias.
And the bias comes from experience. Like when you introduce us, you kind of give all our backgrounds. And so it's what you experience, what you know. So you have to be willing to come to the table with a blank slate, right? Like we did with this book. By the third chapter, we all had gotten a deeper perspective of what women and what our sisters go through that we didn't see probably before, but we went to the book with even though we do have biases that we don't know, that are the unconscious biases, but we were able to say, let's go to this book with a blank slate and learn. As a result, 3 chapters in, I know for me, I was transformed. I mean, I was like, this is way deeper than I ever thought. Way deeper.
But I would say this is what makes this moment important and special and puts people on notice, even when reading certain things, even when reading in general. You gotta have some place to bounce your ideas and your perspectives and your interpretations off of. Because you can't take your interpretation and take that as fact or what it is. But when we get in this circle, we all have 4 different perspectives that we come to the table with, and it allows us to bounce it off each other. And even though we might not come to a common consensus, but it gives us the ability to really think of, is what you think or is what you bring to the table what you really need to bring to the table, or what's important to the moment and the space that is available. It's like music.
Yeah. Go ahead, Nick. I'm sorry.
It's in our musical realm. When, just take it for example, we have what's called concert festival, and the common idea is, if I have a band and I'm working on my band with a certain piece of music, to take that to concert festival, yeah, it will be okay. But in my mind and in the circle, I bring in other directors to work with my band on that music that I've been working with, because they come with a different perspective.
So that's dope. That's dope.
It helps the kids to refine, because they get something different than hearing me every day. Hold up.
Go ahead and close it, preacher. Go ahead and close it.
Hold up, man. I never knew that. That's dope. That's dope. That's dope. That's real dope. That's real dope. That says something.
And it's 2 and 3, sometimes 4 different other directors from different, black, white, up, down, big school, small school, master's education. You get different perspectives, so that you're not only do you grow as a director, because everybody sees things different, but your students grow because they're so used to just hearing you every day. Now they are hearing somebody else and somebody else's interpretation and somebody else's mindset on something that you've been playing for 5-6 months. So I think that for me, this is what this moment means for me, because it's me coming with my interpretation and my perspective to come to get 3 other perspectives and whatever comments we get, and I take that and refine my perspective, so that when I go forward from whatever I read, I'm more refined than what I read just sitting here reading on my own.
That's
which is why you need diversity in education in classrooms.
Right.
Yeah. And so Garnett says his biases comes from values. So would you say
and the like thereof?
yeah. And so these interpretations are they kind of these people that come in during these festivals, are they coming with their particular biases to the training, or to the, I don't know what you call them?
I think that's inevitable. We all come with our biases, no matter how.
But you're saying, you're saying that's the good thing.
Well, at the end of the day, I still, as the old folks say, my word is still law. But at the same time, it's the experience.
That's what I'm saying. So, and let me tie this back in to Miss Lorde, because at the end of the day, what did she do in Grenada? What was her main thing? She went to get the experience to take it back to the house.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Now, y'all thought I was a genius when I did all that. You didn't know I was going there, did you?
Nope.
You didn't know where I was taking that. I didn't either, but it worked.
My granddaddy would say it like this. My granddaddy would say it like this. And my granddad would say even a blind squirrel would root up an acorn every now and then. That's what he would say.
I had a thought, but I had a reason, but I was like, I don't know how. I'll bring it back in a second. But it was just getting so good, because it's one thing about music, the fluidity of music and art fits into everything. Mm-hmm. It fits. It just works. And so that way that especially from an artist. And so when you read her work and you read how she writes and how she's dealing with tough subjects, the reason that we can even read it and deal with it in such a manner is because she's an artist. It's kind of like when I was living in Chicago, Cash used to say, yeah, the only reason we can afford to live here is because it's negative 20 degrees outside. Because if it was 60 degrees year round, only rich people could stay here because it's such a beautiful city to live in.
Nobody wants to be there.
But the cold weather evens it out for everybody. And that's what art does. That's what Miss Lorde's art does in her writing. It evens it out where everybody can read and understand, and even the tough issues, the things that we really don't want to deal with. She makes it where you can at least just say, all right, I read a little bit of you next week.
She makes it palatable. She makes it palatable because she's so creative and she's so gifted. But see, one of the things we talked about other day, Brian, I was like, in America, though, people don't believe that they could be educated wrong. Like, people feel that if I learned it, it's right. And that's no, because I heard a guy on TikTok when he was explaining that Nixon was the reason that we have Black History Month. And he thought that was right. Like, my frat brother, Carter G. Woodson, member of the Omega Psi Phi fraternity Incorporated, was the reason why we have Black History Month. Because it was weak at that time.
Go ahead, Nick.
One small tag to what you said, Brian, talking about being an artist in pain. Just think about it. Think about how many hits, and you look at the history of that hit, was written or made out of pain.
Yeah, man, the whole look, gospel music, jazz, blue. I mean, I even
any genre.
Yeah.
How many hits were made?
Hip hop. Yeah.
It says something.
Country music.
And I think it goes back. I mean, to go back to where we started. Pain in general is not a bad thing.
But is it pain, Nick, or is it suffering makes better music? Which one? Pain or suffering? I guess that's the difference between a one-hit wonder.
But I won't say that we need pain to make hits. I was going to say it don't hurt.
No, I said which one?
I would say Miss Lorde would say that that's the difference between pain and suffering.
Right.
Yeah.
If you can take the pain to make a hit out of it, then it's pain. Yeah. But if you take the experience to make a hit out of it, but if you're just suffering, you're just going through it and going through it and going through it. That's just suffering.
Yeah, it's a difference between, like we said, grief and mourning. Grief is on the inside. Mourning is when you express it outwardly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good conversation, man. Next week, folks, we're reading this little book here. I don't know if I can see it. The Origins of Others, Miss Toni Morrison. We're gonna start to chop into that. So if you want to start reading with us, we read a chapter a week and we discuss. Please feel free. I think
you got something coming up on Tuesday. You got somebody coming up.
I forgot about that. Thank you. Yeah, Tuesday. So that brother down there in the white shirt will be Tuesday, and then the following week I'm gonna get the brother over there,
the Black Beethoven.
Yeah, we call
Beethoven
him
was
Quest. We call him Quest. Loved it. We're gonna be on there. We're gonna get here. I didn't tell him that. I'm just telling him now.
I'm about to say, like, wait a minute now.
So the following week, so Tuesdays at 6, we'll be on there talking to Walter. We'll be talking about I keep misquoting it.
Serving a cross-racial appointments,
and Nick will be we're talking about art. I think we can bring Sean back because I want to hear two artists actually talking. I just kind of sit there and look.
Yes, somebody who draws pictures and makes music, man.
Yeah, let them two have a conversation.
I'm gonna get my popcorn ready.
Let me just be the mediator and have that conversation. So that'll be in the upcoming weeks. And then after that, I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna get some of y'all may have seen. I hadn't told him this either, but I'm sure he won't have a problem. I'm gonna get oh boy, I can't think of his name right now. But when I get him, y'all know him. And then Week after that, try to get old Jay Dwayne on here, have a conversation. From Love is a Parable. Hadn't told him either.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. Love is a parable. Yeah.
Yeah. If you, I don't know, Jay Dwayne is a friend of mine. So some good things coming up. The conversations are dope, man, and we appreciate you all for listening.
I finna go get me. Listen, before we leave, I finna go get a trumpet. I started playing the trumpet and music. I want to be able to make music, Nick. So I'm going to find me a trumpet. Used trumpet.
Well, go.
And I'm gonna play next week.
They got one at Fred Sanford's junkyard.
I'm coming. Look, man, I'm jealous. I'm really jealous of artists, man. You have made me jealous of artists.
Hey, I'll say this, like I tell my students, you got to start from somewhere.
Yeah, I'm on it, man.
You're not playing next week, though. I can tell you that.
No, I'll mute him or something. I'll kick him off. Hey, good people, we appreciate y'all looking. Hey, remember to survive, cultivate joy, resist, and stay dope. Peace.